Good afternoon, everybody. Lily, can you see the PowerPoint?
Looks good out here.
Okay. Hi, Jeremy. All right, sorry about being a couple minutes late. We ran into a technical difficulty getting uploaded, but we should be good. So those who are on, can you see the PowerPoint that is on? Let me actually turn my video on as well.
We got them both.
All right, great. Okay.
Hi Jason, I see the full screen and you're on the bottom toolbar now. So
Say that. Hey, Tony.
hi Jason, you're good to go now.
Okay. So want to welcome everybody. I know this is a topic that we're going to talk about, only the second half matters. That is something that I think is timely, given that we have just hit the halfway point of 2020, being potentially the most unique year that I have been a part of in my 52 years on this planet. And that in and of itself, I don't think is a huge revelation. But what I want to talk a little bit about today is some of the things that we can think about as we get ready for the second half of 2020, as we continue to navigate, what everybody has been calling the new normal, and also what is still completely uncharted territories across the world. So just to kind of give a quick recap, my name is Jason Pappas. I am the CEO and president of RocketDocs, based in Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm excited to spend a little bit of time in this really, really cool virtual town hall conference.
What up, Creamer?
I'm sorry?
Watching a webinar right now.
Yes. Okay. If I can ask, if everybody,
mute, so.
yeah, if everybody could mute, that would be that'd be fantastic. Okay, so a half hour isn't a ton of time to get through a lot of deep material. So I picked apart a couple of things that I thought one would be a little sticky, things that you could take from this session and that you could apply immediately, and also to give you a little bit of a flavor of where we're looking at the second half of 2020 and how we navigate this great unknown. So many of you would likely look at 2020 and give it a 1-star rating. And some of you may have seen this meme that is going on, but if we looked at this as a Yelp review or some other review, it would probably come out as a 1-star review. And many of us would look at it as very bad and would not recommend 2020 to any of our friends, families, or maybe even some of our enemies. Some of you may even say that this meme rings true of, you can't believe you actually stayed up to midnight on New Year's Eve to shout Happy New Year's for this BS that we've actually gone through. And it's really fascinating to think about what has happened in the first half of the year. And from a personal point, the first week of March, I was in Europe in customers and was in 6 days, different cities, 6 different countries, 7 days. And we still didn't truly understand what was going on. And that was about halfway through the first half of the year. I was up in New York City 2 weeks later, literally the day before everything in the United States started shutting down, and almost at the half point of the first half, and still didn't truly understand what was going on until very, very shortly thereafter. And fortunately, health has been good, and I know there are many folks that have been affected by the pandemic, but it has certainly been a unique year. So I'm going to flip this into a little bit, and I hope you pardon this, a little bit of a sports analogy, because first half and second half is one that is often found in sporting events, but I think the applicability to our businesses and even our personal lives, it's very analogous. So Paul Bryant, who was a legendary football coach, college football coach in the United States for the University of Alabama, had a great quote that has been used many, many times is don't give up at halftime, concentrate on winning the second half. And as cliche as that sound, it is really the theme I think most of us should be taking with us into the second half of this year and beyond is let's focus on how do we win the second half, knowing that we didn't have the greatest first half in the world. And I love this graphic that I saw. You know, some folks believe that Earth is losing 42-0 to the year 2020 at halftime. Not a great score in American football, but we still have a half to rebound from this and make adjustments and come back even stronger than we were when we started this game on January 1st of 2020. So if you'll indulge me for a minute, I will share a personal story that way back when, and a lot of gray hair ago, I played football for Yale University. And we had opportunity my senior year to play for the Ivy League championship against a team, one of our rivals, Princeton. And we were down at halftime in this contest, 7-0. And we were a team that was averaging about 30 points a game. Nothing that we were doing was working in this game. We were on the verge of losing the championship. We had a phenomenal second half and came back and actually made the front page of the New York Times sports section that day, where we ended up coming back 2 touchdowns in the second half and winning the game 14-7 and winning a share of the Ivy League title. The irony of how we ended up winning that game is on a completely unplanned, unscheduled play that was not intended to do what it did. And it actually didn't work, but we ended up improvising and scored the winning touchdown off of it. So why do I share that with you? I want to share a couple of what I would consider lessons through my travels in running companies. And I've had a background of running a lot of different types of companies. Some of them have been in situations where they've had a really, really bad first half analogy, and they've needed to be able to come back and make a mark. Most recently, prior to RocketDocs, I was the CEO and president of a cancer center in Baltimore that was struggling, and we were able to pull it out of bankruptcy and take it into a very vibrant business that is literally saving hundreds and hundreds of lives on a daily basis. And it was because of using some concepts that I've been taught over my career of how you deal with disappointment. How do you deal with the unexpected results that come to you that none of us could have foreseen as we were cheering in the new year a mere 6.5, almost 7 months ago. So what I want to share is what I call the ABCs of winning the second half. So this is something maybe a little cliche, maybe a little cute, but hopefully you can take something with you to think about as you are preparing to go into the second half of 2020 and beyond. Because I think it's fair to say that nobody could have envisioned us being exactly where we are. Some of that is good. I mean, if you are a teammate of Zoom, you had a pretty interesting ride through this uncertainty of the first half, where some of our customers that we're dealing with, the enterprise customers that are dealing with finance and healthcare and some of the really important components of our economy are dealing with a new normal that they have never anticipated or could have anticipated, candidly, a mere 6 months ago. So what are the ABCs of winning the second half? One is agility. And I've always believed that agility is the key to winning. And many times the group that is the fastest, the strongest, the best prepared, the best financed, the highest staff are not the ones that end up winning games. I believe it's truly the ones that are the most agile. And we'll talk about a little bit about that in a moment. The B of the ABCs of winning the second half, I call belief. I think everybody has run into, belief and all of the cliches that come along with belief. If you believe it, it can happen. And, if you believe you can or you don't believe you can, both of them are right. But we're going to talk about belief maybe in a little bit of a different context as it relates to coming into a second half of whatever it may be, life, the year, your businesses, and be able to successfully navigate. And the C is connection. And it's funny, as I previewed this with some of my teammates, they assumed the C would be something like commitment or consistency. But I truly believe connection is a key element of being able to navigate where we are as a society and as a humanity. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through it. So let's break these down just a little bit. So what is agility? And by the way, this power will be available for you, so don't feel like you got to take notes on it. You're more than welcome to download it, take it with you. So agility, it's a noun, which is the power of moving quickly and easily. Nimbleness exercises demanding agility. Second definition, the ability to think and draw conclusions quickly with intellectual acuity. So agility is not about strength or power. It is about quickness and nimbleness. Now, I will, in full disclosure, if you saw the picture of me when I was playing ball, I was not ever considered agile or nimble on a football field. That's why I was an offensive lineman. For those who know American football, those are typically the big dumb ones that they put on the front line and just say, go hit somebody and don't ever touch the ball. But in business and in life, the agility, the ability to recognize situations and make adjustments on the fly are a critical element of being able to navigate any situation that you're in. And part of the key of agility is just an awareness of needing to be agile. So Bill Gates has a great quote. Success today requires the agility and drive to consistently rethink, reinvigorate, react, and reinvent. And I would even argue prior to the pandemic, agility was more important in today's society than ever before. And I had a very, very good friend who I consider a thought leader, who had said something many years ago that I found very profound, is that we are not disrupting. We're not finding disrupting technologies or disrupting entities any differently than we did in the past. So the internet was just as disruptive as the printing press or the steam engine from an impact on society and impact on business. But what we're seeing today is disruptions are happening significantly faster than we saw previously, which demands agility. Because the minute that you actually react to what is considered a new normal, the game has changed already. So many of you are familiar, especially if you're in the technology business as we are, in a concept called agile development. And agile development is a great example of agility in action. So all agile means, if you look at the diagram on the PowerPoint, is that instead of the traditional to innovate, to develop, which is called a waterfall on the right side of that slide, which is a stair step. You do this, then you move to the next stair. You do this, you move to the next stair. You do this, you move to the next stair. The new way of really thinking about development, technology development in this specific, is a constant circle where you are testing, you are developing, you are continually innovating based on the new data that you just received, and you never actually feel like you are in a linear progression. It's much more of a circular progression of being constantly open to innovating. I am a adjunct professor at University of Maryland, Baltimore County, known as UMBC. And the agile classroom is something that has become a term of art in education, which instead of staying on one specific syllabus for an entire semester, you reevaluate the progress of the class every week, 2 or 3 weeks, and create agility in your curriculum. Now, this past semester that I was teaching, we all needed to be incredibly agile. We went literally from in-class instruction to remote instruction within a week. And I will tell you, I think those who were business folks who had some agility background were much more able to adapt and be able to deliver a much better educational experience for the students versus those that were sort of in, what is typically known as a fixed mindset, where there wasn't a whole lot of agility. It was more of a linear a process. Okay, so that's the agility side. The second is belief. Now, belief can be defined in a whole bunch of different ways, but one of them that I picked from dictionary.com was confidence in the truth or existence of something not immediately susceptible to rigorous proof. Confidence, faith, trust, like a child's belief in his parents, a religious tenet or tenets, religious creed of faith. So, I think belief manifests itself in a whole bunch of different ways. The easiest one to point to is whatever spiritual or religious denomination that you may have or have seen. But that is a belief in an entity or a being or a state that we can't rigorously prove. And part of the real key, and this doesn't, whether you are a frontline RFP teammate, whether you are a manager in an RFP team, or whether you're an executive of a group or an organization trying to navigate this, that belief is a really key indicator to make sure that the entire team has aligned. And part of the RocketDocs culture is measuring not only key performance indicators, but also adherence to values and behaviors, which are manifestations of the beliefs of the company. We spend a lot of time developing those over time because I believe that drives winning as much as getting specific key performance indicators done. If you believe that we can navigate this thing elegantly, and I'm being a little dramatic for effect, you have a much better chance, and in some ways you have a chance versus no chance to be able to navigate this and win this second half. I think there's a great quote from Walt Disney, which Walt Disney, and this was not the Walt Disney Company, this was actually Walt Disney who said this quote, was kind of fun to do the impossible. And if you believe that you can take on the impossible, and some would look at this pandemic as a game changer, not only that, but also potentially a game over. If you believe there is a way to navigate it and have that core belief, anything can happen. And I'll give you one of my favorite examples of, for those who, again, please forgive me for one more analogy, but for those who follow college basketball in the United States, there was a belief for a long, long time that in the year-end tournament, the NCAA tournament, the number 1 seed, the best team in the country, would never lose to the worst team in the tournament, which is called a 1 seed versus a 16 seed. And in the entire existence of the tournament, a 1 seed has never lost to a 16 seed, where there was a belief that it would never happen. Along comes the school that I am the adjunct professor at, a little commuter school that has turned into a complete powerhouse of science and technology, but not a sports power, just a few years ago became the first team ever as a 16 seed to win a tournament game against a 1 seed. And I had the pleasure of getting of knowing and interacting with a couple of these students, because UMBC is not that big of a school. And I can tell you, they had a belief that they could do it. And that is the core beginning of being able to win the ostensible David against Goliath, which they pulled off and still hasn't happened in the couple of years since. And who knows if it'll ever happen again. So that was kind of fun for those who were a part of the university. To, if nothing else, nobody had any idea who the hell UMBC was when I told them that's where I taught. And then all of a sudden after this happened, everybody knows who they are. So at least from an identity standpoint, that belief really changed a lot of the perception. And then the third component to throw out there is connection. So connection in a meaningful way, an association or a relationship, a circle of friends or associates or a member of such circle associated with the development of something imagined or discussed. I truly believe one of the biggest benefits of this pandemic is the fact that the entire world, the business world, the personal world, and everything has become more humanized. And there has been a lot of tenets of we're all in this together. We're going to figure this out together. There has been a little bit more of what I would call humanity injected into a society that, candidly, I think we had lost that a little bit. And that human connection, I believe, is critical. Now, it's a little bit of an oxymoron because we are now less connected with our folks because most of us are not back into offices yet. But I believe genuine human connection is one of the keys, along with being agile and having a unbreakable belief that we can win this second half. And in a world of algorithms, hashtags, and followers, don't ever forget the importance of true human connection. We have so many rich tools now to be able to engage human connection, even if we can't be sitting next to the person. And at least with our team, we have found, and we have been fortunate where we have pretty seamlessly moved to an online remote work style, and we're beginning to slowly bring it back. And I think it'll be a hybrid going forward, is that even when you're near somebody, it doesn't mean you're connected to them. But when you actually care, connection is what happens. And that collective connection, that collective caring is a critical component of being able to win going forward. All right, so I've got about 5 minutes left. Let me leave you with two things, and if we have a moment, we can open it for questions. We'll see if we have time. There is a book that I have shared out that talks about the second half of life, that if you're interested in delving into this from a completely business standpoint, but I'd argue in a very business standpoint, there's a book that I've fairly recently read by a guy named Richard Rohr, and it's called Falling Upwards. And the subtitle is A Spirituality for the Two Halves of Life. Now, whether you're spiritual, religious or not, this book really talks about a concept of first half of life, second half of life, in a way that resonated with me at a very, very deep level of really understanding of how we really do have two halves in our existence, and how an awareness around that and using the concepts that we talked about with agility, with belief, with connection, can really help master that second half. So if you're looking for a beach read, or you're looking for something in all of our collective spare times, I'd certainly recommend exploring that. It was a very, very impactful book for me, and I've used that in the business world as well. So I'll leave you with one last quote around the second half. And again, I'm going to go back to somebody who is fairly famous in the sports world in the United States, a gentleman in Lou Holtz, who was both an NFL and a college coach. But I think his quote is the most important part. How you respond to the challenge in the second half will determine what you become after the game, whether you're a winner or a loser. Now, I'm not sure I love the winner or loser, bifurcation, but what we do in the second half of 2020 is not going to only affect what our results are in 2020. I truly, truly, truly believe that what we do over the next 6 months, or now 5+ months, will set us up for way beyond the end of 2020. And I think if we can bring the agility, the belief, and the connection into our collective habits and use that humanity, use that unwavering belief, and inculcate sort of agile thinking as part of our daily regimen. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're a frontline RFP teammate or you're somebody who's management or a leadership role. Being able to embrace those three elements, I think, will be game changers way beyond the second half of this year. So that was the message I wanted to share with you. If I'm looking at the time right, we've got a minute left, and Tony, you can jump in. We have an extra 10. Okay, I'm talking to my production assistant / assistant extraordinaire who's looking at me. So did anything come through the chat? Okay, nothing. All right. So I can take a minute or two if anybody has a question or thought that they'd like to throw out. And I believe that we can take a question or two. It's unmuted. Okay. And if not, no worries. I know everybody is busy and cranking out on this conference. I
have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you took over RocketDocs. Did you purchase it? Did you acquire it? Because I'm just curious about how it evolved from being PMAPs to RocketDocs, and how that, I looked at PMAPs a few years ago. I'm curious about how it has changed.
Sure. So I'll give you a little bit of my journey with it. So RocketDocs was bought by private equity, local in Baltimore, more of a family office private equity, about 5 years ago. I was asked to join the board of directors a little bit right after that. So I had been a part of the board of directors for almost 4 years. And then I joined as full-time CEO and president about not quite 18 months ago, but about 15 months ago, and took over to run it. I had a lot of experience with the company prior to that. So I have a small ownership stake, but certainly not a controlling owner. The evolution from proposal software and PMAPs to RocketDocs was done while I'm on the board with my predecessor as CEO. And the reason was we have evolved as a company from just a proposal automation organization into much more of a sales enablement, revenue enablement organization. And we felt like proposal software and PMAPs, because of the proposal in that, may have been a little limiting on the scope that we had built out from our vision. So we simply changed the name to RocketDocs. It's a catchy name. Is it the exact right name for us? We're not changing it again for our customers who are on the phone. I know there was certainly some change is always interestingly embraced. But ultimately, it's the same company, just changed its wrapping.
Got it. Thank you.
I appreciate the question.
Sure.
I think I have time for another question or so, if there is one. All right. Well, folks, I really appreciate you all jumping on. Tony and team, thanks for putting on a great conference in, again, a uncharted times. I know our team has had a lot of fun being involved and being a part of it, and I look forward to continue doing it. All right, everybody, be well, take care, and we'll talk soon.